Chris, should I stay here or are you taking me backstage?
Yeah, no, we've just started. So, hello everyone. Welcome to our second webinar on YouTube, and I'm pleased to welcome two of the people who will be speaking today. Alberto Costa, the Assessment Services Manager for Cambridge here in Brazil. We also have Mauro, who many of you will hopefully know is one of our teachers for all of the Cambridge qualifications at Cultura Inglesa in Boa Viagem, Recife. And around about 8:30, we will have two more people joining us, teachers Isabel and Camilla, who also have lots of experience training students to take the Cambridge exams. My name is Christopher. I am the Director of International Exams at Cultura Inglesa Boa Viagem in Recife. It's a very big title, but I'm the one who will contact you with information about the exams, send you things like the confirmation of entry, make sure reminders are sent out, and if you have any doubts or queries about the exams for Cultura Inglesa Boa Viagem, then I'm the one that you can contact, and I'll share my email address with everyone towards the end of today's conversation. So, as I mentioned, we're really happy to have Alberto with us tonight, as well as having more experience and more knowledge about the Cambridge tests than anyone else. Alberto also has a very strong link with Cultura, all of the Culturas actually here in the northeast of Brazil. And I think without further ado, I'll be happy to introduce Alberto to take us through his practical tips for the Cambridge exams.
Hello, Chris. Hello, everyone. Good evening. And it's really nice to be here talking to you, maybe to some of you one more time. But thank you very much, Chris and Cultura Inglesa, for this invitation once again. Yes, I have a very close connection with Cultura Inglesa in the Northeast. This is where I worked for 28 years of my professional career. So it's a really it's really nice to be in touch with colleagues like Chris and Mauro and Isabel and Carol, who will be joining afterwards. The people I have worked with, people I have been with in many training sessions and events for teachers. So today we are going to talk about practical tips to ace your Cambridge exam. So I will try and speak at a pace that will be appropriate for students at different levels. And by all means, feel free to type your questions in the chat. The questions you can ask in English or in Portuguese. So feel free to clarify any doubts you have about your Cambridge exam. What we want is for you to make the most of this moment, right? We agreed that this session would be delivered in English, but most of all, and most important of all, we are here to support you. So feel free to ask questions in any way you like. What we want to do is to answer your questions about the exam. So we're going to start with the practical tips. So I work as an assessment services manager. So I left my title here in Portuguese. I work with the exams. I work with candidates, centers, and teachers who prepare students for the Cambridge exams. And for this session today, I will be sharing some valuable tips for you. So as I talk through the tips, please don't forget to write them down. So make sure you have something to record the tips. For example, you could use your notebook or you could use your device to make notes, maybe to take photos of the screen or to make some screenshots. You can, by all means, ask questions during the session. So you can ask questions in English or in Portuguese. And of course, I'm going to give you the opportunity to save those tips for you to take home. Okay? So write them down, ask questions, and save those tips when we get to this moment. I'm looking at some comments here in the chat, just in case there are questions for me to start answering straight away. All right, so we're going to start with tip number one. Tip number one has to do with Cambridge resources to help you prepare for the exam. So they are very good support for you. So I'm going to be sharing some resources that Cambridge has available for learners. I have worked with Cultura Inglesa and I know how resourceful Cultura Inglesa is. You have a good selection of course books, you have a very good selection and a wide range of support materials that teachers bring to you, that teachers bring to class. But when we are preparing for an exam, the more the merrier. So it's important to have support available. So I'm going to bring some ideas that you can add to the materials you already have that you receive from Cultura and from your teachers. Yeah. So tip number one, we are going to start by talking about in a section of the Cambridge website which has access to support. This is called the exam preparation section. Yeah. So I'm going to invite you to scan the QR code on the screen so that you can access this area of the site where you will see those rectangles. Each rectangle is a Cambridge exam. So you're going to click on the exam of your choice so that you can see the resources, and we are going to explore some of the resources now, right? So the first thing I recommend for you is that you aim to develop and practice all the four skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. It's very important to remember, if you speak well, that's good for the exam. But if you speak well but you don't write very well, you can get into difficulty in the exam. If you listen well but you don't speak very well, so you this might be difficult for you. For the Cambridge exam, make sure that you develop all the four skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, because they have the same weight. Yeah. So speaking 25%, reading 25%, etc., etc. If we are talking about the more advanced exams, they have another component, which is use of English. But the weight is the same: 20%, 20%, 20%, until we get to 100%. So all the skills are equal in the Cambridge exam. So make sure you focus on developing the four skills, right? And then we are going to explore the resources there. So this is my first recommendation. My second recommendation is that you make sure you keep improving your grammar and vocabulary, because grammar and vocabulary will be very important for your language development and for you to develop the skills, right? You can only speak and write if you have good command of grammar and vocabulary. The other thing is, make sure you know what to expect from the exam. Cultura Inglesa teachers give you good materials, they give you mock exams, right? You are going to receive a tutorial for your exam as well if you're doing the computer-based version. But make sure that you use this link from the QR code to become familiarized or to remember what the exam is like. So make sure you know what to expect from the exam. And also, make sure you are aware of the exam procedures. Every exam, Enem, Cambridge, vestibulares in general, they have procedures. You have to arrive on time. There are things that can be brought into the classrooms. There are things you cannot bring into the exam room. So make sure you understand and you are aware of the exam procedures. So I think these are very interesting points for you to bear in mind and for you to do well in your exam, and most of all, to feel confident. Okay, I asked you to scan the QR code because when you choose one of the exams, you will find something like this for every exam. You have three sections, but we are going to look at two sections in particular: exam essentials and learner essentials, right? In the exam essentials, you are going to find lots of information about the exam itself. And in learner essentials, you're going to find resources and information for candidates. So you're going to focus on those two sections for the time being, right? When you click there, for example, in the exam essentials, you will find information. And in the learner essentials, there is a document called information for candidates. When I say to you, make sure you are aware of the exam and you know what to expect from the exam, you need to be able to answer those questions about your exam. How long is the exam? Because, depending on the level, the exam will be different. Some exams will be longer, some exams will be shorter. So, how long is the exam? Which skills are assessed? What type of questions, activities are used, to assess each skill? How many different components are there to the exam? Some exams have three components. Other exams have four components. So make sure you know about that. How long is each component? This is very important. And also how the results are presented, what you're going to get after taking the exam, right? So all this information you can find through this QR code. And if you go to the information for candidate material in the Learner's Essential, we are going to be talking about this throughout. Okay, for tip number 2, we are going to provide information and resources for you to practice beyond the classroom. Classroom time is really important, but if you can do a little bit more work outside the classroom, that will be a good benefit for you. So we are going to share some resources for you to practice English for those levels here. Yeah. So we're going to start with the first resource. It's called Learning English. And in this resource, you can practice with short activities for you to do on the computer, on the mobile phone. And also, you will see that the activities are uh, separated or organized by levels and colors. So if you're doing the exam A2 key, you look for the green activities. If you're doing the more advanced exams like C1, C2, you look for the pink activities and so on. And you can practice reading, pronunciation, you can practice grammar, vocabulary, etc., because there is a menu, there is a search engine for you to choose what you want to do, right? So make a note of this portal, Learning English. At the end, I'm going to give you the opportunity to save all this information, right? When you receive this material, you will see that there is a link for you to access. You click on the image, and you'll be able to access the resource by clicking on the link, right? So Learning English is a very interesting portal with lots of short activities, something for you to practice beyond the classroom. The other thing that you can do to practice is Kahoots. Kahoots are games that you can play on the computer. I'm sure you have practiced with Kahoots in the classroom because we teachers, we love Kahoots. And Cambridge has, a set of Kahoots for students at B1, B2 level. So you can use those games to practice grammar, to practice idioms, and also to practice with learning tips as well. So again, you're going to click on one of the boxes to access the Kahoot of your choice. So we talked about learning English, the portal, and now we talked about the Kahoots games that you can use to practice English, right? Beyond the classroom. So I highly recommend going to those Kahoot games. The other thing is um, how to practice writing when for I want to see how I can rephrase this. Your teacher gives you a lot of homework, right? Some of the homework includes writing composition, which the teacher collects for you to give you feedback. But if you want to practice more than the compositions that you get from the teacher or the compositions that you get from the book, there is this portal called Write and Improve. Write and Improve is very simple. You're going to click on the link and then you're going to choose a writing task. There are tasks at different levels. You choose a task and then you write your answer. You submit it, you get feedback, you learn from the feedback, make changes, submit it again. And then you are going to get feedback and a grade and a level in the Common European Framework. Uh, Write and Improve will tell you whether your level is A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, according to the way you write your answer. So there are many options there for you to practice writing, and you can also get immediate feedback. So you can do the writing activities that your teacher has set, but you can do more writing activities and get feedback from the platform. And all of this is done for free. So it's a very good platform for you to go to and start practicing your English writing. But then you say, okay, you talked about practicing grammar with learning English, vocabulary, reading, pronunciation. You talked about the Kahoot games. And then you said, okay, now this can help you develop your writing skills. But Alberto, what about speaking? We also have a resource for you to practice speaking. This is called Speak and Improve. Speak and Improve can work in any device, computer, mobile, tablet, and basically, similarly to Write and Improve, what you're going to do is you're going to start talking, and then you will hear this robot asking you questions. So you answer the questions, and then the robot asks you more questions, and then you keep answering the questions until the robot gives you a grade. If you think your grade is not good, you can practice again and again and again. And I have a recommendation for Speak and Improve. When you practice with it, and when you hear a question from the robot, make sure you provide a good answer. Make sure that you expand your answer. Don't give an answer with a few words. Give an answer with sentences, yeah? So that the robot can understand and also can give you a better grade, because the more content you put in your answer, the more the robot will assess in terms of your speaking. So this is a very good thing to practice. Again, absolutely free. And then you can use it in any device, computer, mobile, etc. So lots of ideas here for resources, right? And then we have something else to share with you, which is called Exam Lift. Exam Lift, it's not a platform, it's an app that you need to go to your mobile store, and then you download it from there. When you go to your mobile store, you type Exam Lift, or ExamLift Cambridge, and you'll be able to download this app, which will provide lots of activities for you to practice English for 3 different levels: A2, B1, and B2. So if you are preparing for the exam A2 key or B1 preliminary or B2 first, you will find activities for those 3 levels by using ExamLift. This is one of my favorite resources because it's practical. The activities are short and they are very creative activities as well, which makes it more motivating for you. So if you happen to have a question, just type it in the chat and then I'll be able to answer it. So I've been talking a lot about resources. Now it's time to talk about the exam day, right? So if you are doing the computer-based exam, I'm going to share some information with you about how to become familiarized with the platform, etc. So remember when I told you when you go to the exam preparation section, you will find this menu here. You have exam essentials, and you also have the learner essentials that we talked about. When you go to the exam essentials, there is an area dedicated to computer-based exams. When you look at the menu, this is what you will see: many things in the exam essentials area. And there is an area here called computer-based exam information. When you click here, you'll be able to access good information about your exam. And this information will include, for example, a tutorial. So for each level, there is a specific tutorial, which is a short video clip. And Chris was telling me that candidates who will be registering up until Saturday, right, Chris? You will be receiving a link to this tutorial. This is about 7-8 minutes. So, but if you don't want to wait until you receive the link, you can go to the exam preparation section. Then you click there, computer-based exam information, and you'll be able to access the tutorial for your level, right? But we don't only have the tutorial. We also have the frequently asked questions about the computer-based exam. There is a guide that you can download, and maybe the question that you might have is already in the guide with the correct answer, right? Now, if you are not doing the computer-based exam, you are doing the paper-based exam, you might say, okay, what do I need to consider if I'm doing the paper-based exam? Well, when you do the computer version, you type the answers on the screen, right? When you're doing the paper-based version, you have to write your answers on the exam booklet, and then you need to transfer the answers to the answer sheet. You need to understand and you need to find the correct information about when to use the pen and the pencil, because for the paper-based, you need the pencil for you to record the answers, and you also need a pen, for you to sign your name. So make sure you bring the pencil and the pen for the paper-based version. Yeah. So this is important. And when you go to the information for candidates booklets, which I'm going to show you, you will understand exactly where to use the pen or the pencil when you're doing the paper-based exam, right? So if you're doing the computer-based exam, you have all this support from the website, and all those images here, they have the link for you to go to that section, yeah, when you receive the material. The other thing as well, and this is important for any type of exam, computer-based or paper-based, is the exam day procedures. As I mentioned to you, when you go to NN, you have a number of procedures. If you're doing vestibular, FUVEST, etc., you have a number of procedures. Cambridge is exactly the same. On the exam day, there are protocols, there are rules for you to follow, right? So let's talk about some of those rules. Whether you are doing the paper-based or the computer-based, this is exactly the same. For example, what to bring with you? You need to bring a valid document with a photo. Yeah? Any valid document with a photo. It could be your ID, it could be your driver's license, and it could be your passport. The physical document, please, not the digital document, right? So you need to bring a valid document with a photo. Also, there are things you are not allowed to bring. For example, you cannot bring any device into the exam room. Mobile phone, watches, no kinds of watches are allowed in the exam room. So if you can leave these at home, even better. If you have those things with you on the exam day, they will be collected and they will be kept in a safe place. So after the exam, you will collect your belongings, mobile, watches, etc. But no kinds of watches are allowed into the room and any kind of electronic equipment, right? And of course, for every important exam, you have to make sure you arrive early. When you receive your confirmation of entry, when you do your registration for the exam, you have information about the time to be in the school to take the exam. So if the time says, for example, 9 o'clock, be there 8 o'clock. So make sure you arrive 1 hour or at least 30 minutes before the exam starts so that you can find your way around and feel comfortable, right? And feel confident about taking the exam. And of course, you can bring water into the exam room, but this has to be in a transparent plastic bottle. Yeah? So make sure you bear this in mind. It has to be a plastic bottle with no labels and no words in English, preferably. So uh, um, you can bring water without problems, right? All right, tip 5, as I mentioned to you, this is very important. I highly recommend accessing the Information for Candidates booklet for your exam. You can go to the exam preparation section, which I talked about, and then you go to Learner Essentials. But when you download this material, you'll be able to click on the images to access the Information for Candidate booklet for your exam. It's very important that you download and read this resource so that you can understand what the exam is like, how long is each part, how long each part is, and also understand when to use the pen, the pencil, if you're doing the paper-based version of the exam. So make sure you read the Information for Candidates. And I think that with this, I'm going to go back to the tips I mentioned to you at the very beginning. Things that I said to you. Don't forget to write the tips down. Don't forget to ask questions during the sessions. And of course, don't forget to save those tips. Yeah? So, just as a recap, I mentioned to you a number of resources for you to practice Cambridge resources. Can you type one or two resources that I mentioned in my presentation before I give you the opportunity to save this information? So, what resources did I mention to you for you to practice English? Of course, one of the resources was the app for your mobile, right? ExamLift. So ExamLift is a reminder, but apart from ExamLift, what other resources did I mention? Can you type it in the chat just to make sure you have been making notes of the presentation? So I mentioned ExamLift. Any other resources that you heard? And while you are very good, Vinicius, Sandy the robot, yes, speak and improve. Good, Mateus, thank you. Kahoots, yes, Kahoots are very popular. Everybody loves Kahoots. Now, as you are typing your ideas, just so I know you remember what I mentioned, I'm going to give you the opportunity now to, yes, Ingrid, thank you, Ingrid, learning English. I'm going to give you the opportunity now to download all those resources for you so you can scan the QR code. And good, Nina, thank you. Learning English. You can download those materials. And as I mentioned to you, when you download this resource, they have links. So you can click on the image and this will direct you to the resource. So you don't need to go to the site and keep looking for them. You have links to all of those resources. So make sure you use the QR code to download your material. And I hope this was useful. And last but not least, I want to wish you all the best of luck in your Cambridge exam. Any questions, any doubts you have, the best person to go to is your teacher, right? And of course, you can refer to this material as well to do a bit more language practice before the exam. So wishing you all the very best, everyone, and success in your exam.
Thank you very much, Alberto, for those tips. There is an interesting point. Perhaps you would just like to emphasize before I bring the other teachers on. One person has mentioned ChatGPT. Obviously, would you like to explain a little bit about the security of the computer-based tests? So when the student sits down at the computer, do they have access to anything, or just a little bit about the security?
Yeah, this is a very good point, Chris. When you come to Cultura Inglesa to do the exam on the computer, that machine will be locked. So you won't be able to go to any other window on the computer, right? First, the computer is locked. Second, there are invigilators in the room. It's a very important exam, and every important exam has a lot of security. So the machines are prepared in such a way that they are blocked. So you cannot access Google, you cannot access YouTube, and you cannot go to ChatGPT either. Also, you are not allowed to bring your mobile phone, right? So this is all for security. It's very important that the security is in place.
Yep, exactly. And for those people taking the computer-based tests this semester, we will obviously share the links with you when we send the confirmation of entries. And the links to the videos, which will show you what the system will look like, you will receive. However, next year, the system is changing. So if you're not taking a computer-based test this semester, but you are thinking about taking one in the future, then as of January, we will have a different set of videos to show you what the new system will look like. Okay, Alberto, once again, thank you very much, but you're not free yet. I'm going to put you in the backstage, if you like, so you have some time to relax. And the next person I'm going to bring forward is Mauro.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
As I mentioned at the start of this webinar, Mauro has a lot of experience training students for the Cambridge exams. Mauro has experience taking all of the Cambridge exams. I'll let him elaborate a little bit more on that area. But I know Mauro also has a couple of slides he would like to go through. So Mauro, first of all, would you like to take us through the slides that you've got?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm sure. Can you allow me to share them? So
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, that's it. Just 1 second. Okay, I promise to be brief. I won't take as much of your time as Alberto's presentation. Don't worry, I'll try to be brief. So first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Mauro, and I'm a bit biased to talk about the Cambridge exams because I have had a long-lasting relationship with them. I think the first Cambridge exam I ever took in my life was the A2, previously known as CET, the English test, back when I was 13. I'm 32 now, and along my journey, I think I kind of became an exam geek, having collected all of the Cambridge exams from CET, from A2 to C2, CET, PET, FC, CAE, and the C2 proficiency. Throughout the years, I have also helped. I have been teaching exam classes. This is actually the specialization of my Cambridge Delta Module 3 teaching exam classes. So I'm really passionate about the exams, training students to take the exam and help people achieve their goals, right? So today, my top tips for you, I have a couple of things that I have selected. And I'd like to begin with this quote. You know, you need to start with the end in mind, because as the quote says, if you don't know where you're going, no road will get you anywhere. So as Alberto mentioned before, it's really important that you choose a level and you talk to your teacher and you know for which exam you are applying, studying and preparing for. Because even though they follow a very similar pattern, it's really important to get familiar with the tasks. And of course, the higher the level, the more challenging the tasks will be. Then, my tip number one would be to really immerse yourself in the language, especially if you're aiming for the higher level, such as the C1 and the C2 proficiency. This goes for all languages, actually. Personally, I have started learning Italian now as my third language, and I can see the benefit of just exposing myself to a lot of input, because we need to get input first before we can produce language. So as you can see there, input, then output. So I think students oftentimes underestimate the power of input. So nowadays it's very different from the scenario we had 20 years ago. Nowadays, information has never been so easy to access. On YouTube, on the internet, everywhere you go, you have access to books, audiobooks, podcasts on Spotify. The sky's the limit. So I would strongly advise you to do this. And personally, now that I'm putting myself in the shoes of the learner, once again, learning another language, I can definitely feel the benefit of just listening to a podcast in Italian, which is the target language I'm learning now. My second top tip for you would be try and devise an action plan so you can revise grammatical areas and improve your lexical resource. Especially when we are preparing for exams, you might get a feeling, especially in the use of English paper, which is bind together with reading, you might have a feeling, especially B2 level and above, you might have a feeling you have a general grasp of the grammar, but there are a few areas which you feel you could improve in order to get higher marks for the use of English. So perhaps working with your teacher and trying to identify which of these areas you need to work on. Cambridge University Press has plenty of material for grammatical reference, so you don't have to read a grammar book from cover to cover, but you can definitely pinpoint weak areas to work on, and you just see the benefit in your use of English results, and actually across all of the other skills as well. Another thing that I'd like to point out is improving your lexical resource. I think very commonly students often underestimate the power of vocabulary, the power of lexis, especially at high levels. Again, the higher you go, the richer the vocabulary you have to use. And improving your vocabulary will help you with your overall accuracy, coherence, and cohesion while you're speaking and writing. So I would like to draw your attention to that. Finally, my third top tip would be to record the new language you encounter. I remember when I was preparing for my C2 exam 10 years ago. Wow, exactly 10 years ago, in 2013, I was taking my Cambridge C2 proficiency. And I used to keep a very organized notebook. And of course, you can encounter language in many different places, from mocks, from books you're reading, from your own course book. But if you do not organize and revisit the language you encounter, you might forget the new structures, the new vocabulary, phrasal verbs, collocations. So I cannot emphasize how important it is to keep an organized record of the new language you encounter. Finally, a bonus tip that I'd like to give you is to test yourself often with mock tests under test conditions. So of course, at Cultura, we do have mock tests during the semesters, and they are done by the students under test conditions with time limits. But I would encourage you to do this more often, even at home. If you can simulate the environment and with a timer and really put yourself under the pressure, this will allow you to be better prepared on game day. So oftentimes we are doing it. The students tell me they're doing tests at home. They're doing mock tests at home, and they can score really high. They have these amazing results. But when game day comes, they feel so nervous because they are under the pressure of the time limit. They might struggle. So what I can see here is an issue that is non-linguistic. So although some students are excellent in their language skills, they're lacking some exam skills. And under the pressure, when we are very nervous, we tend to underperform when we are doing tasks. So I think I cannot highlight how important this is. Test yourself under pressure, because that's what you'll be expected to do on game day, on exam day, right? Chris, do I have more time, or are we moving on to the girls?
Well, I was going to ask you a question, Mauro. So you've done all of the tests that Cambridge have to offer. Bonus question. Why? Why did you do all of them? What was your motivation to go through all of the tests?
Well, when I'm asked this question, actually last year when I did this event, it was a similar event to this one, I started off my presentation with a short anecdote that I'd like to share with you. I remember when I was about 12 or 13, when I first decided to take my first exam, and I remember actually seeing a poster, was a picture, was in a frame at Cultura Inglesa, and the picture were 5 steps, one by one, like a staircase with 5 steps, and in each step there was a level of the Cambridge exam: A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2. And there was a big slogan. The Cambridge slogan at the time used to be, "Whatever you want to do with your life, a Cambridge certificate can take you further." So I clearly remember as a young child looking up those steps and thinking, wow, I want to get to the top, but I want to do it step by step. So I want to highlight the importance of not skipping steps, because sometimes our anxiety in our lives, we just want to get to the final destination. But I think it's so important to enjoy our journeys. And our journeys are also the destination. We can take step by step, and we can grow so much through this journey. So I think that was my motivation, enjoying the journey as well as the destination.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And could you talk a little bit about what impact having the certificates, what impact has been that has had on you as a professional?
Yes, of course. I became a language teacher, right? An English language teacher. So that makes all the sense for me to follow this path and climb up the ladder. Thanks, Alberto. Climb up the Cambridge ladder. But I do think I do agree with the slogan until nowadays. Whatever you want to do with your life. So of course, it's an obvious impact in my life. But I think if you are a doctor or an engineer, or if you're following any other profession, I can definitely see the benefit it will have in your life. As we know, English is a global language, and it's the language of communication, of medicine, of technology. So whether you want to go and live abroad, like I did later on, and have an intercultural experience abroad, or if you want to, just enjoy some time and meet other people, I think English is of course, the biggest element, the biggest tool you have to connect yourself with the world. And even nowadays, I can see the benefit of being proficient in English because it helps me to acquire other skills that would not be possible if I didn't speak English so well. So, for instance, now I've been learning to play the piano now, and I'm studying music, and all my material is in English. I because it's much easier to access. The books are better. So I don't pick up a piano music book in Portuguese. I pick up a book in English, and I think this has made all the difference in my life, definitely.
Okay. Thank you, Mauro. I'm going to move you off the screen now and bring the ladies in, but don't go away because you will be back. So let me just click here. I have to do everything slowly to make sure I don't press the wrong button. Okay, so we have here teachers Isabel and Camilla, both CPE holders, so they've gone to the very top of the ladder. I'm going to start with Isabel, first of all. Isabel, could you tell us a little bit about your experience preparing yourself for the Cambridge exams?
Hello, everyone. I hope you're okay, and I hope you all excel in the exams that you're about to take. First of all, let me introduce myself. I've been a passionate English teacher in Cultura for like 15 years, exactly 15 years this year. And I've been through all the Cambridge exams. And Mauro, congratulations on your presentation. And I think many things that you've said, I was going to say, and I guess Camila as well. But valuable tips. Congratulations. So, Grace, can you repeat the question, please?
Yep. So could you just tell us a little bit about how you prepared yourself to take the Cambridge exam? So the last one you took would have been the CPE.
Yep, I took the CPE in 2018. Well, I'm a very organized and disciplined student. So the way I used to prepare myself for the exams were like, I even took some notes. I didn't prepare slides as Mauro did, but I've taken some notes here. I attended classes in Cultura, CPE classes. I think it's very important. I also interacted with lots of people in English. I tried to expose myself, and I think this is really, really, it's highly important that you expose yourself to the language in many ways, listening to podcasts, watch videos on YouTube, watch TV series, reading books. And also it's important that you expose yourself to a wide range of topics. Do not stick to only topics that you like reading about, that you're interested in. For example, my listening in the CPE was about spatial exploration. So space exploration is not something that we see on a daily basis, and it was about that. So it's important that you cover a wide range of topics on a daily basis. I also had my vocabulary notebook, as Mauro pointed out, and I think it's vital that you do that. I had divided in phrasal verbs, collocations, and also I went through the exercises found in the use of English. And I had one subject for each one specifically. What else? I revised, nearly on a daily basis, I would revise that notebook. And that really, really helped me go through the use of English in a very successful way. I did lots of mocks and timing myself, as Mauro has mentioned as well. I think it's really important because time cannot be an issue for you on the day of the exam. So, for example, in the reading, when I went to the exam, I already knew which ones were easier for me, so I would go for them first. Also, it's important for you to learn, study about reading strategies, skimming and scanning, because sometimes it's not even necessary to go through the whole text in order to answer the questions. Also, sub skills such as paraphrasing and synonyms. It's really important for you to know, because you're unlikely to find the same words in the text and in the questions. There will be synonyms and words sentences being paraphrased. So that's why it's important that you acquire the higher number of words that you can to implement in your vocabulary bank. What else?
I'm going to come in with a different question now, because 3 tips. I think you gave more than.
Yes, I did.
From your experience, why did you take the Cambridge exam? And in terms of other students that you've known, how have they used their Cambridge exams to move forward in life?
Okay, I think Cambridge exams are stepping stones for high achievers. I mean, if you're aiming high, go to Cambridge exams. I'm a great fan of the Cambridge exams, and all my students know that, because I think it prepares for life. It really teaches like real life skills. So the reason why I took them for professional reasons, of course, but I think that I'm much more prepared to whatever situation happens to me, regardless if they're professional or not.
Okay. I'm going to give you a moment to relax there, Isabel, and I'm going to bring in Camilla now. So, Camilla, also a CPE holder. Camilla, what are your top 3 tips for those people taking a Cambridge exam?
All right. So, guys, I'm the newbie teacher in the group. I've been teaching for the last 4 years, but I've been taking Cambridge exams for about 20. I think I took my first exam when I was about 13. So my tips, I think Mauro and Belle gave some phenomenal tips. Other than being an English teacher, I'm also a journalist. So I would like to talk a little bit about the writing exam, which a lot of people dislike. A lot of people have issues with time or with coming up with ideas to write, and it doesn't have to be that complicated. One thing I would say, going off of what Belle said, know your synonyms, know how to paraphrase, because if you read the instructions with care, and that is a big if you read the instructions with care, all you have to do is make sure the information you need to add from the instructions is in your text, but preferably not in the same words. So knowing synonyms, knowing how to paraphrase will help you a lot when you are stumped and you can't think of anything to write. Basically, you have to add the information from the instructions in a different way, in your own way. Another thing for the writing that is actually often a topic of a lot of laughter in my classrooms, you can make things up. If you are not sure about your information, you can make it up. No one is going to check. Your information is not fact-checked. Your English is being checked. So if you really want to write about something, I'm really good at writing this type of text, but I don't know much about this topic. As long as you are not offending anyone, feel free to make up information to make your life a little easier. I sure did that during my CPE, and I've had students who told me that they did that. They even included my name as a doctor in a quote. Like, okay. So another thing is, going off of what both other teachers said in the writing exam, it is extremely important to be mindful of time. You have to write 2 texts in a short amount of time. Most people don't write 2 texts in a short amount of time very often. So what I would do, and this is fundamental, before you just go off and start writing, plan what you're going to write. Take a few minutes, make some notes about what you need to include in your text. Otherwise, you may get lost. You start writing, you get carried away. Next thing you know, you ran out of words and you didn't include all the information that you needed. So before you get desperate and just crazily start writing, plan. Make notes of what is you absolutely need to include, because if you don't, you're going to lose points, and we definitely don't want that. So I was definitely wanted to focus on the writing exam because I know a lot of people struggle and panic when they think about writing.
Yeah, definitely. It's also a very good point that you raise about making something up in speaking as well. It's a very nerve-wracking moment. Candidates go in very, very shaking, and even the simplest of questions. What did you do last Saturday? And the complete blank.
And you just forgot what even is Saturday. What did I eat for dinner last night?
Feel free to make up make up a story. I went to, if you live here in Recife, I went to the beach with my friends, and then we went to a nice restaurant and ate, I don't know, spaghetti or something like that.
I try to encourage a lot of my students to do that as well. Like when they are telling me a story, teacher, I don't remember what I did last weekend. Make it up. But it really, people feel like they're gonna know I'm lying, and they're not. They're not.
There is no way. We don't check. We're not allowed to check. The same question to you as well, Camilla. From your experience, how useful, how important has the Cambridge certificate been for you? And do you have knowledge of other people who have taken the Cambridge certificates and it has helped them in some way in their careers or in their personal life?
Yes, of course. So for me, obviously being a language teacher, that was something that was definitely my goal, to reach the highest level and to be able to teach at the highest level, all the students who wanted to get there. So obviously my path was very clear to get to the CP, and it's also motivating. So you are trying to get that high level. So you're going to make sure that you do everything that Belle mentioned, exposing yourself to the language, exposing yourself to different topics. If you have a goal in mind, then that becomes much easier to stick to. And in my personal life, actually, one of my close friends is studying to be a diplomat at the moment. And he took the CPE last year as proof of his English ability. So that is a way that he was planning to use it in real life. And I teach a lot of high school students. Currently, a lot of students think about going to university abroad. And the very first thing you're going to need for that is a proof of your English level. So this is definitely something to work towards.
Mm-hmm. Okay. As everyone was speaking, I was making a note of a couple of ideas that came to mind. One of them has already been mentioned, so knowing the test. I think everyone has said the same thing. One aspect of the speaking test, which I think sometimes gets missed, you do the speaking test with a partner, and part of the criteria that you are assessed against is how well you interact with that person and also the interlocutor. So sometimes someone will come in and they will think that they just need to talk and dominate the conversation. That's not what Cambridge looks for. And it can actually cause you some problems for your score if you do dominate. Things to do with your partner. Listen to what your partner says, respond and react to what they say, and ask questions to find out more information. Again, if your partner is shy and perhaps has got too nervous, then if it's a part where you need to talk about something, state your opinion and then ask your partner a question. If your partner still doesn't respond, don't worry, that won't have an impact on you. The interlocutor is trained to deal with situations like that, so the interlocutor will get involved. But you've shown that you are trying to interact with that person, so try to avoid dominating a conversation. In terms of the tests, and I think this works for the computer-based and the paper-based, don't feel like you have to do the tests in the order that they come in the book. So, for example, reading and use of English. If you are stronger at reading, go straight to the reading section, get the reading section done first, and then go back to that lovely sentence transformation or whatever it might be in the use of English part of the test, and spend a little bit more time there. So the only time you can't really do that is with the listening, because you have to do the listening in order. But the reading and use of English and the writing tests, you can choose the order that you do the questions. So if there's a particular section, I'm great at these, I can do them really quickly, I'm very, very confident, go straight to that section, get those out of the way first, and then organize your time to tackle those sections that cause you a few more problems.
I would also add to that, basically leave yourself plenty of time to do the paragraph matching activity, which is the longest in the reading section. And often people leave it for last because they don't like it, and then they run out of time. And it's very useful if you can match multiple paragraphs in the same place to make sure that they match. So I always tell my students, leave yourself plenty of time for that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, Isabel.
Chris, can I just say something? Guys, it's really important that you are knowledgeable about every single paper of the exam, what is expected from you. And another tip is we are 1 month away from the exam. So do some writings, go after your teacher, grab your teacher, teacher, please make this writing for me. Make the most of this 1 month that you have ahead of you. Until the day of the exam. We will be more than happy to help you guys with this.
Yeah. And before I forget, if you haven't enrolled for the test yet, the test, if you're watching us from the Recife region, our deadline for the tests is the 25th of November. So on Saturday.
25th.
Yeah. So Saturday. Yeah. I think it's a Saturday.
Yeah, it's Saturday. Yeah.
It's Saturday. Yeah. So the 25th. So that is the deadline for our enrollments for this this semester. If you have already enrolled, on the 25th, when we close the enrollments, that's when I upload everything to Cambridge. So your confirmation of entry will go out probably on Monday. So you should receive an email, and then Cultura will send you a WhatsApp message just to confirm the confirmation of entry with the dates and times and things like that. So as we're wrapping up, Alberto, is there anything else that you would like to mention after listening to Isabel, Camilla, and Mauro?
Well, Isabel highlighted something that I started with in my part, which was making sure that you develop the 4 skills, because they have equal weight in the Cambridge exam. So it won't be very good for you if you only speak well and you don't do so well in writing or in any other skill. So make sure you develop all the 4 skills. And just as a reminder, if you haven't been able to download the resources that I shared, talk to Chris, and Chris will be able to share this material with you.
Yep, I'll in the comments section, I'll put the email address. You can send me a message, and I'll forward everything on. There's one more thing I just remembered. If you're taking a computer-based test and you are very, very young, please spend some time using an old-fashioned keyboard and mouse. I was made to feel very, very old recently because some teenagers, when they came to do the computer-based test, I had to give them a quick lesson how to use a keyboard, how to use a mouse, because they were more used to using they were more used to using a tablet or a mobile phone. So the computer-based tests, no matter where you take them in the world, you need to use a keyboard and a mouse. So if you have very little experience using those, please spend a little bit of time getting that experience before the day of the test. And please don't make the invigilator feel extremely old, because I predate the keyboard and the mouse. So yeah, I wasn't very well that day. Isabel, Camilla, Mauro, anything that you would like to say just to finish off before I do the final goodbyes?
Well, to wrap up, I'd like to thank everyone involved. I think all tips are incredibly valuable. So thank you so much, everyone. And I would like also to highlight what Camilla said about the writing paper and the importance of the 4 skills. I think, yes, based on the reports we have received from Cambridge, right, Chris, the writing has been the weakest skill of our students. So if you want to pick up valuable points that are being left out, attack the writing paper as well as the others. But make sure pick up those marks, because there are lots of marks to be picked up from the writing paper. So I agree with Camilla. I cannot emphasize how important writing is. And that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Definitely. Yes, I would also like to add something. And I think based on what we all said, practice, guys, practice, because you will feel less anxious if you know what's expected of you, if you know how long it usually takes you to do this part of the test, that part of the test. The more you know yourself, the less you're likely to panic when the time comes.
Yes. Okay, what I'm going to do is I've just posted my email address to the YouTube chat. And I'm also posting a link there to a Google form. If you would like to give us feedback, it would be extremely valuable. We do want to do more lives in the future. YouTube Live. So your feedback, your ideas, you can answer in English or in Portuguese. You don't have to give your name if you don't want to, but the feedback would be extremely valuable to us. I was just about to thank Mauro, but it looks like he's just dropped out. I think his internet must have gone. So that being said, I would like to thank Alberto. Thank you very much for the last-minute invitation. We planned this with only a few days to spare, and Alberto,
it's nice to see you and all the familiar faces over here.
Alberto very kindly offered his expertise to us, and thank you to Mauro, who's I think having an internet problem. And Isabel and Camilla for racing from their lessons after their lessons had finished straight home to come online to join us here. If there are no questions, no doubts, then I'm going to bring the live to an end. If you keep this link, the YouTube link, you will be able to go back and re-watch this event. It will stay on our page on YouTube. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
No questions for us from them? No questions?
No questions. I think you did such a great job. You answered everything as you were going through. So for now, there are no questions. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.